Hello there. Welcome to the Hamilton West by-election poll, the other one, live results special. This is becoming a bit of a habit now, just live election results specials. This is actually the third election that we've had as a country this year, so it's a bit tiring, and I, for one, am really glad to see the end of it. So during the next hour or so, I should have some guests along, some people calling in. It sounds like the platform, but it's actually run by somebody who has no idea what he's doing instead of somebody who's pretending to know what he's doing. Feel free to leave comments in either YouTube or Facebook. Apparently they both come through to this thing that I'm working on, which is definitely a bonus, I guess. And it also means that now voting has officially finished in Kirikiriroa, Hamilton. So the results here are going to be really quite fascinating. It'll actually not take that long to count them because, sounds terrible, people didn't go and vote. People suck. And it's the same with every by-election. By-election, it's just don't get the numbers out for people out there voting. So don't expect this to take a huge amount of time. The polling has been really interesting as well because the poll numbers, there's only about 400 people that they've been polling each time in an electorate of about 35,000 voters. So the polling could be all over the show. But I wanted to show you guys something that I thought was quite interesting, because one of the things that the media has done really poorly this time around is consider Hamilton West a bellwether seat. And it's usually a bellwether seat when it comes to the general election, but a by-election is completely different because you don't have that balance of your party vote and your candidate vote, and people out there campaigning for candidate votes and party votes. It's just a different beast altogether. But I did a little bit of numbers, and because the Hamilton West electorate was actually set up in 1969. So in that time, we've actually had 30 years worth of MPs from the National Party and 23 years of MPs from the Labour Party. So it's very much an electorate that tends to lean towards the blue instead of the red. Now, there have been a couple of occasions where the electorate hasn't gone the same way as the party vote has, or the ruling party, the party that ends up actually winning in the end. And every one of those has been a National Party member holding on when Labour has taken power. So realistically speaking, the argument that Hamilton West is a bellwether seat, it's just not there. Like, it just doesn't happen. Not at all. It's fascinating to sit down and watch. So even if Labour takes it out this time around, they're obviously not going to balance those numbers out there. But it would be very interesting to see how long they can hold on to that seat. So Sam, I actually don't have answers yet on how anybody's doing. On the Electoral Commission website, they've got a results page, and essentially when the first 200 votes have been entered into their system, that's when the results page will update. Because the polls have just closed in the last, 3 minutes, we're not going to have an update there yet, but I will be keeping an eye on some of the social media stuff that comes through. Hopefully someone's got the right idea for the Hamilton future. I certainly hope so. Let's see. So I can show these things. This is a new platform for me. I'm still finding my way around it. But you're absolutely right, Arnie. Hamilton's future is a really interesting one. It's just got so much potential. So much potential. Don't mind me. I'm also drinking at the same time, which is never going to go wrong at all. It is fascinating. You're absolutely right there, Melissa, about how we collectively believe these things with limited evidence. And, there is certainly a bit of a correlation there that it tends to change when governments change. But a lot of that's actually from the 60s and 70s, when we were using first past the post. And under MMP, it's a little bit different for obvious reasons. The system's obviously different. And we still kind of feel like it's a bellwether seat because of that reason, but it's really not the case anymore at all. It's one of those things that we just can't shake. Like, it's quite surprising how much we can't shake it. It's kind of depressing how much we can't shake it, actually. But yeah, that's something to keep an eye on as we go forward. Now, I have invited a couple of guests on. One drink and I'm already slurring. But it's up to them as to whether or not they want to get hold of me. I've got somebody from the Labour Party organisation that was working with Georgie that's hopefully going to give me a call shortly. But we'll find out. I've also asked Guarav to give me a call because he obviously kicked this whole thing off. But before they come in, I want to show you something else, okay? Because this is, for me, a really fascinating by-election in that you have candidates like this. And one of the things I've always argued for people to go out and vote for in both local body elections and general elections is that your low voter turnout is going to end up being the thing that stops people from actually, the low voter turnout keeps the crazies thinking they've got a chance here. And here are some examples of just some of the stuff that's come out from these, shall we call them, fringe parties, including this one. Let's get my directions right. This one right here from the Outdoors Party just a couple of days ago, where they were claiming, the low voter turnout's great for them. And it is, because they've got a dedicated base going out there. And all three of these parties have actually done what they can to use things like what's happened at Starship Hospital as a basis to get people worked up and get people on their side, because they are manipulating the system in an effort to make people go, oh, that poor little baby, and win votes from it. And it's actually disgusting. Like, generally speaking, it's really disgusting. And I don't think voters are going to go for it. But it's a really interesting test as well, in that Liz Gunn this week has turned around and said that she's going to run for Parliament because she has to have second Nuremberg trials and hold everybody to account and all the rest of it. These kind of people that are going into it are kind of test cases to see what the water's like for the general electorate to go over these things. And they could do better than expected. In the Tauranga by-election, the Outdoors and Freedom Party got almost 5% of the vote. And they were crowing about that because that under MMP would put them in Parliament. And while there's not much of a chance of getting a unified umbrella party, because they're all about ego, they're not so much about what's actually best for their voters, there's still a possibility of getting like a figurehead like Liz Gunn out there who's sort of amalgamating these votes through. So this is just some of the bullshit that came through from some of these candidates. And I am genuinely impressed that they had the mental fortitude to spell things like drag queens properly. Like, it's embarrassing. It's really embarrassing for them. I'm very curious though, did anybody actually have much interaction with these candidates? I really probably shouldn't be drinking, but I'm not changing that just yet. Any interaction with them at all? I found Jade the most fascinating, which I shouldn't have, but I did. But only in that there's a whole, Tate's not her current name. I think it's her maiden name. And so it made me go, it's a bit strange. And there was a whole bunch of issue related to Derek Tate at the beginning. It was a big, weird thing. Very big, weird thing. Now, some research that's been done as well around what people consider to be the big issues. The big one was crime, which is really quite fascinating. And crime's not a good thing. Went to the debate on Church, Sandwich Road. The debate with the small parties. It's a little bit crazy. I saw Jade interviewed by Donna, and I thought that was just insane. Like, it's literally it's like that Spider-Man meme with the three of them all looking at each other going, oh, no, you're the crazy one. No, you're the crazy one. They're just really bad at it. Very, very bad at it. Let's have a look at some crime stuff, because who doesn't like crime? Now, this map here, this one here, is actually it's essentially a heat map of where crimes have been happening over the last few years. It's adjusted slightly because there was a massive drop during 2020 for COVID for obvious reasons. But right there, the Waikato has had one of the largest increases in crime of any of the regions in the Motu. And that's really problematic if you are a government like Labour, who's been in power for 5 years now. People are starting to really feel it. And it's one of the reasons why during this particular campaign, Labour was out and about and doing everything they could to be seen, to be tough on crime and helping people and providing those things. But the fact of the matter is, I don't know how the people on TV do this. The fact of the matter is, it's a massive increase that's going on there. But Labour can sit here and argue that they're doing what they can to bring these things down, that there's a whole bunch of reasons for it. There's also other elements. Remember, like, it was National who shut down all of the community police stations in Kirikiriroa. And it's National who want to go and lock up kids in boot camps. And for some reason, that's a popular policy, which is really strange, especially when you look at the crime stats. Because this one here is actually the alleged crimes committed by children and teenagers over the last few years, from 2015 through to this year. And as you can see, you can't see my mouse because that's not how this works. But as you can see, there's only been a slight increase recently. Other than that, it's been like a steady decline since back in the days of Helen Clark, almost the days of Helen Clark. I actually don't know. It just says alleged crimes committed by teenagers. So I imagine it's across the board. I don't know how many teenagers are going to be doing wage theft, though. So it's a very good question. But and it's a really tough one, because this will be using the data from the police itself about what they track for crimes and stuff like that. Oh, referring to the map. Let me go back to the map. Actually, before I go back to the map, I'm going to bring in the always amazing Holly Snape, who has been working with the Labour campaign. She had a meeting yesterday, I think, with the Prime Minister. She's head of volunteering Waikato. She's amazing. She's absolutely amazing. Hello, Holly.
Hey, Paul. How are you?
I am fantastic. I'm just pressing buttons, trying to make everything work.
Hey, just to be a pain, can I just correct you on one little thing?
No.
Community Waikato rather than volunteering Waikato. But it's a very similar space.
It is a very similar space. How are you holding up?
Oh, you know what? I'm getting to a point where I'm thinking a nap would be nice. But I have a
I
red wine,
bet.
and I'm doing all right.
That's good.
Beautiful.
That's really good. You had a very high-profile visitor yesterday.
Oh, I tell you what, we've been blessed with the Prime Minister joining us around 4 or 5 times during this campaign. She's done a lunch with our volunteers near the beginning of the campaign to say thanks for all the support. Last night she turned up after everyone had a full-on day of doing work just to say thanks again. She moved around the room. She spoke to everybody. Just actually an incredible person, and it was invigorating after what's been a very long, very tiring 5 weeks.
It doesn't feel like 5 weeks.
It really doesn't. I don't even know what it feels like, Paul. I couldn't even tell you.
It feels like Christmas, and that's the worst time to do this.
Isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What's the feedback been like out there on the hustings trying to get hold of people to vote? The turnout's obviously going to be low because it's a by-election. But are people engaged? Do people give a shit?
It's probably felt quite mixed. You know,
Okay.
there are pockets where there's really high levels of engagement, where we target as well who we speak to, because,
Of course.
you know, we've only got so many people and so much time. So we end up in spaces that are generally quite supportive of the Labour movement. And we've had some fantastic support in those spaces. But we are also finding people feeling disengaged. People are feeling the pinch with what's happening, globally, and it's impacting us here in New Zealand. That's really tough on people. We're finding people are focused on Christmas and what's coming. So the election doesn't feel exciting for people who aren't a little bit weird like me that are into politics. So,
well, I mean, we had the local body elections just a couple of months ago.
It doesn't help, I'm sure, you know.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
And then you have a different voting system. So I think there was some confusion as well, you know, that actually it was a poll, but it wasn't like a poster, you know, like it just,
Yeah.
I think there are a number of compounding factors that have made it a little bit difficult for people to really get out there and get engaged and involved in this. Yeah.
That's got to be hard. It's going to be really hard for you guys.
It is, because we know how important it is to turn that vote out. I mean that's obviously key, but you know, I think what's really important for everyone to understand is that it's not just about this by-election either. This is about what happens in the next 18 months as well. You know, that we're committed to a much bigger journey than the 5 weeks that we've just had.
That makes a lot of sense. How confident are you guys going into this?
Look, the polling has not been on our side, so we're realistic that that maybe we're seeing a bit of a turning tide. We know that in the last election there was a very big red wave, and we know that tides turn. So we're realistic about that, but we're not overly concerned about that. We're really hopeful that Georgie has a successful night tonight. If tonight isn't her night, we also have a plan for what our future looks like. I saw a comment in the paper, is the Herald, I think, yesterday, where Tama had said that he'll stick around if he gets in, but if he doesn't, he'd look to go back to Auckland. That's not Georgie. She's 100% in this community. And if
she's already there, yeah.
That's right. And if this isn't her election, she is here for the long haul. She's sticking about, and she is really keen to work hard to represent this community.
You mentioned Tama there's already got a plan. What is the likelihood that it's some other third party? What's the word on the street been like that for you guys? Because this is obviously again, a different election in that respect.
The polling doesn't indicate that it's going to be a different party.
Okay.
The other parties, I think it's important that they have a presence. It's important that they, this is about democracy, and that there are some really complicated issues affecting the world at the moment. And we need to hear the different ideological positions that parties take on these. I think that is powerful, and that is a real opportunity in this type of election. But I think the reality is those minor parties they will probably just take votes from one of the two main parties that are likely to get in. That is the nature of politics. This is the beauty of MMP in a central government election, but probably the difficulty in a by-election, where there's no party vote kind of opportunity.
Yeah, and I think that's a really interesting way for people to campaign, because obviously the first polls that came out had every party because nobody knew who it was that was going to be running. And they've all been run by Curia, which is linked to ACT in a lot of ways. It's been fascinating to sit back and watch. And I have big problems with polling anyway.
Yeah.
I just don't like it. It's horrible, very horrible. I've just had a text from my next guest going, ooh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to follow Holly, but I will do what I can. So you're doing well. It's actually Kelly from the Tron, Kelly Pike.
Oh, Kelly's amazing. She will be incredible. Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. I've got no doubt. Yeah, I'm quite pleased I don't have to follow Kelly, to be fair.
I know the feeling very well. She is very onto it. Do you guys have an ETA on results?
We've got people in the room at the moment who are checking and refreshing, looking for results. We haven't had any yet, so we're just keeping our fingers crossed. And as soon as we get anything, we'll be sharing the news with everybody in the room. People are feeling excited. I think people are, really optimistic and hopeful, also realistic. Like I say, we've seen the polling, but we also know we've got a fabulous candidate, and we're backing Georgie 100%.
Fantastic. I think it's a brilliant place to finish this. Thank you very much, Holly. Feel free to give me a call a little bit later if things go your way and I'm still up on the air.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Paul, and thanks for the opportunity.
My pleasure. Good luck, and I'll talk to you later.
Ka kite.
Yeah. So there you have it from the Labour camp. They're cautiously optimistic, but also trying to be a bit realistic here. And as I said, I've got Kelly Pike coming up as well, who is Kelly from the Tron. And if you haven't come across Kelly, you totally should, because she is absolutely amazing. She's been busy doing other things, but she is incredibly busy. Just back from Armageddon Christchurch. That is brilliant. Right. I do like this comment. This is one of my favorite comments. I hope it was a good time for you. The canine, the dog, absolutely brilliant. So very, very cool. So the way that we're doing this to actually get the results is the Electoral Commission has a results portal. Like, it's that simple. Like, it's really super simple. And it's just a case of refreshing. If we adopt STV for electorate seats seems unfair for smaller parties, let's have a look at this one. So this is actually a really interesting one as well, Melissa, because when the electoral law was redone back in, I think it was 1999-2000, it was actually done by Rod Donald under Helen Clark. And one of the things that they considered was what to do about the electorate vote and whether or not to have it as something like STV and then make all local elections STV as well, or to keep it as first past the post. And they decided to go with keeping it as first past the post for the simplicity sake of it, instead of having everybody sort of bouncing all over the place. Under the new changes that are being proposed, STV is actually an option that could be looked at for both your local body elections as well as your electorate elections, which I think makes more sense if you've got a unified system. So it'd be very interesting to see how that actually rolls out. Be very keen for it to roll out as well, because it's not proportional. It's really not. Okay, this is very cool. This is very cool. Bonnie Langford pictures from 7 years ago. That's impressive. That is very, very impressive. For those of you that don't know, Bonnie Langford was actually one of the companions to Doctor Who in the classic era. A little while ago now. My numbers are not quite working in my head because it's been a long day. Very, very long day. And I'm not yawning, I promise. Definitely promise. All right, let's have a look at some other info, though, while we're waiting. So, yes, now I wanted to point something out to you guys, which I thought was kind of interesting. This is a campaign image that came up on the National Party's campaign. And this is, I think it's Simeon Brown. It's really hard to tell. I don't think I know anybody that short. But I think I know somebody who's a bit more of an expert on this. Let me bring Kelly into the conversation. Hello, Kelly.
Kia ora, Paul.
How are you?
I'm very good, very good.
And you're all Christmassy in the background.
A little bit Christmassy, yeah.
A little bit
yeah.
Christmassy.
Yeah, I have a kid. You have to pretend that you like Christmas sometimes.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. I've got a pile of presents on the table, and like the closest I've got is that. It's the only Christmas. It's a tiny little Christmas tree with Christmas lights.
Yeah, got it. Can see it.
Yeah. It's all I'm doing for Christmas this year.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. Anyway, election time again.
Yeah. Again, I think, and to be honest, I think the fact that you're saying again sort of highlights why so many people might be so disengaged with this one, in my opinion. I did hear Holly, and obviously my experience over the by-election has been different.
Oh, of course,
but, my experience is that people don't really care. It's not on people's radar. It's close to Christmas. We're tired. We're over everything. We just had an election. And that's feeding into a little bit of not caring.
It's got to be so tough at the moment, just out there trying to win votes, and the weather's terrible, and everybody's stressed, and nobody wants to be involved with it if they can help it. And it feels kind of rushed. It's just a really short turnaround time. It does feel rushed.
Yeah, it does feel rushed. And I think there's a lot of people out there not really knowing why we're even doing this. And I've reflected quite a bit over the last month or two, or however long this has been going on for, about our political system. And I'm becoming more, I've been thinking a lot about the protest vote. And like I think about protest vote because I don't like our political system. I think it's really flawed. I don't like the political party system, any of that, the Westminster system. I want to burn it all down, but I am.
Somebody tried that like 600 years ago. It didn't go so well for them.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think of ways that how are we going to improve this so that more people are participating and feeling like it matters. And I don't have solutions. I'm not a political scientist. I just know that the system isn't suited for most people. It doesn't work. We don't get it. We just want them to get on with the job. They're paid well. So I've been doing a lot of thinking around that, I guess, and what it could look like instead. I can see why people aren't interested, I guess you could say.
In that case, having a look at the protest vote potential out there, because there's a few options for candidates who you could really protest vote for.
Is there though? I mean, if there was a legitimate way to do a protest vote where I'm saying screw your system, I would vote for that, but there isn't one.
Fair.
The ones they call protest votes are people who hold values that don't align with mine. They're not legitimate protest votes of the system because they come with all this baggage that I just could not ever vote for.
That makes a lot of sense. I was having a chat to Naomi Pocock. Very briefly, she mentioned in a comment somewhere about how she was frustrated that TOP wasn't being presented by mainstream media as the protest vote. Instead, they're going for the crazy conspiracy theory ones as the protest vote, and that obviously infuriated her a little bit.
I don't even see the Opportunities Party as particularly being a protest vote, though, I have to say, because it's not really looking at how we change the system. It's looking at how we change a political party to not... Yeah, it's not really the same as saying this system does not work.
Yeah. You're in the West, aren't you?
I'm in Dinsdale, right in the heart of it.
So as somebody who's...
I've been really excited to hear Hamilton West in the news. That's cool.
Yeah.
It's not cool that we're like the poster child for crime, because that's not my experience of living here. So it's been quite frustrating to listen to.
Yeah.
And I think it's only been maybe Georgie who has said, actually, this is not, we shouldn't just say Hamilton West is like the crime capital, because it's not. There is so much more that goes on here, so much more positive stuff, but that's not what they're focused on. They're politicizing crime. They're doing it really poorly. The policies are shit. And that frustrates me to see the place that I call home to be represented like that in the mainstream media.
The one that gets me is the National Party and ACT policy, because it's policy for both of them, of kids in braces, like putting braces on.
I have an 11-year-old, and so to me, I just can't even compute the idea that we would put an ankle bracelet on an 11-year-old. It's just bizarre. And I also, look, to be honest, personally, in my opinion, the National Party has no policies, and certainly none based in evidence. But in general, I'm not seeing enough of really good conversations about where we are going to change things so that people have well-being and that our world is different and experienced differently. And I just don't see that, actually, by most of the parties.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. Yeah. It's such a diverse electorate as well that I'm kind of surprised that National is doing as well as it seemed to be in the polls.
Yeah, again, it's to me, it's not that I don't feel as if people are attracted. And look, I voted across the whole spectrum from ACT to Legalise Cannabis Party. Honestly, the whole spectrum except National. But I see people wanting to vote National. It's not been about their policies. It's been about, look,
not Labour.
With the cost of living and all these other things. Mm-hmm. The only option people feel they have is to go to National. And not really giving a good look in at what other parties, not that I think parties are the solution, but they're not looking at the smaller parties who might actually hold more solutions than what the National No Policy Party has.
I've been quite fascinated with it, because this is the first sort of election where the no policy would actually should have an effect on the outcome, because obviously the Tauranga by-election was it was always going to be National that won that. So it's one of those things that sort of makes me go, how are people responding to the policies or lack of? And they seem to be they're going for it, which is weird.
Well, I don't feel as if these people have the time and the energy to really look into it. And it feels, and I don't mean to sound patronizing, but it feels like there's not really a look deeper into what a solution, like I've complained here about the system, but I haven't come up with a solution for you. And I think people go, we have problems. We don't like the stuff that's happening. So we'll just go to the other party, red or blue flip.
Yeah. So any sort of predictions for tonight?
Well, based on polls, it looks like National. And I've done a lot of thinking. I've already resigned myself to that fact if that may be the case. And look, Georgie is an incredible candidate. I think it would be really sad. But if it is National, I wondered about, does that really matter? So I'm trying to process that now.
Well, realistically speaking, you've only got 12 months.
Yeah, well, that, and also I think the only thing it means is that there's more money that particular party has to spend to get them ahead for the next election. So it's really about the resourcing that will come our way. I can't really imagine that there'd be much more to it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't know if you can see the comment that's just popped up on screen here.
No, scary. No.
I don't know. Isn't National having no policies actually their main policy?
Well, yeah, maybe it is. Maybe that's a good way to
It could
slide
be.
on through.
So we actually have our first preliminary count result come through. This is total votes counted, 4,416, 22.9% of all votes. We're looking at Tama Potaka leading George Dancy, 2,076 to 1,359 votes, followed by James McDowell with 414, Dr. Gaurav Sharma with 362, Naomi Pocock with 70, Rudy Deploy with 49, Donna Poketi-Phillips. I know. Yeah. Donna Poketi-Phillips, 26. Peter Wakeman is on 17. Jade Tate is just hitting double digits with 11. Frank Fu on 7. Gordon John Dixon on 5. And Richard Ormiston with 3. Osmiston? I don't know. The dude lives in the South Island and he's running in every election he can on the No Money Party. But yeah,
interesting policies though. Did you check out the website?
Yeah, there's
I
some
did a lot of
fascinating
nodding.
stuff there.
I read it. I did some nodding.
Yep, absolutely. It's an interesting.
These are not big numbers. Not big numbers, though, are they? In terms
No,
of voting?
they're not. No, and it does say here that at the moment it's 8 of 35 results have been counted so far, so they're getting there slowly, but it's not going to be a fun night. Yeah.
No. Look, we've in the years that we've known each other, Paul, we've had some nights where we've been celebrating, but we've had some nights where we're like, "What the F just happened?"
I'm really glad there's alcohol around. Yeah. I think it's at this point it's looking to be much of a national win more than a Labour win. With 25% of the votes counted now, Tama's extended his lead a little bit. It's 2190 now to 1432. So yeah, it's looking like the seat's going to swing blue.
Wow.
Yeah. Sorry.
Well, you can't, yeah. I mean, like I said, I don't know how much it matters. It just means that they will have a bit more money to resource them for next year. That's it.
Yeah. We're also getting reports that only about 10,000 people voted.
Not surprised. I went to vote and there was nobody else in the hall, so I'm not really surprised.
God. I know.
And it was like 10 o'clock today. I left it to the last day because, to be honest, I was feeling like I didn't give a shit either. And
I've heard that so many times.
Bad. Yeah.
I've heard that so many times from people that they can't be bothered. Like it's just one commentator.
There's no
Twitter
Green Party candidate either, which didn't help. But yeah.
No, I kind of get why there's not though. Like they don't want to split the left vote. But I found it fascinating that just on Twitter all day today, it's like, oh, damn election, because I don't want to deal with this because, and I totally get it. It's just the wrong time of year for it. It's very much the wrong time of year. It's frustrating. So I'm guessing you didn't go fishing today.
It is what it is. But if I could just have one more whinge with no solution before I go.
You are more than welcome to.
The other one is I'm really proud to live here in Hamilton West. But I get really pissy when we helicopter people in. Look, we have some really amazing people here. And look, I know party politics, it doesn't always pan out that way. And they have to bring someone in. But I get kind of offended. Like we don't have enough. We have some amazing people here. What's happening?
Do, absolutely. There were some candidates that were put forward for the National Party that I thought was amazing. I was actually talking to, I think you might know him actually, Art Robinson. Have you come across Art?
I know the name from Facebook, maybe. Yeah.
He asked me who the National Party candidate was just after Tama got nominated. And I said to him, this is who it is. They had 3 candidates. There was one that I thought was like a really strong potential candidate. And his first response was it a triple-barreled island name? Because, that's never going to get voted in. And
all right.
It's just this sort of...
Well.
Yeah.
Maybe Hamilton West isn't quite ready for that, for the National Party.
Yeah. But you've got so many good people down there and so much potential.
We do. Yeah. I mean, I don't understand party politics at all, but yeah, it seems a bit stink when they have to bring them in from somewhere else.
Yeah. Their site's gone down.
That's
Problematic.
weird.
Yeah. But the last count had Tama extending his lead even further. Okay, yeah, 31%. He's now on 2,600 votes. Georgie's on 1,870.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
sad. But
Yeah. And Gaurav, 491.
yeah, it's an interesting one.
Yeah. Yeah. Donna's sitting on 45. She's almost doubled her vote count from before.
Well,
Yeah.
Room
And
for
Vision is
improvement.
on 19.
It surprises me that there's even that many, to be honest, but
The church is in Hamilton West. The Destiny Church is in Hamilton West.
is it?
Yeah, it's down by it's in Tarapa. Behind
It's just not really a community that I
Yeah, I'm much the same. I believe one of your councillors is a little bit more au fait with it than we are.
I think there is.
Yeah. So yeah, I think paint the office blue. See how you go tomorrow.
I'm pretty sure Goiko is not going to be painting the office blue anytime soon. We're pretty
No.
safe. Yeah,
I think so
We'll keep it
too.
yellow
Yeah.
to friends.
Do you guys have much interaction with the local MP?
No.
Okay, well, it works out fine then.
Yeah. Makes no diff. Yeah. Makes no diff.
Exactly. Sweet. Well, I might leave you go and enjoy the rest of your evening.
And commiserate. Yeah.
Grab a glass of wine.
I mean, I don't really mind who's in there. Honestly, I don't think it makes a big difference to me, but I just don't like them being smug. That's what bothers me.
That's going to be where it's
Goodness,
really
Ollie
hard
Price
to
is gonna
judge.
do the big "Thank you, Hamilton West" sign waving on Monday at the roundabout's going to drive me insane.
Yeah. So I've just had another update, and there's been a massive jump for Georgie.
Oh,
She's still trailing, but
there's
she's
still hope though. Let's stick with the
she's
hope.
only trailing by about 700 votes now instead of the 1,000
Wow.
that she was before. And
Okay,
that's
cool.
with 34% counted.
That's good.
Yeah.
We shouldn't give up yet.
No, not at all.
Awesome. Hey, thank you, Paul. Thank you so much for
Thank you
your
for
work
being
in this space. You know that we appreciate that.
You can buy me a drink when I'm down there.
Yeah, I will.
So not the next time. I'm actually down there tomorrow, but the time after that. Tomorrow's a holiday other thing trip. Yeah.
Other things. Sounds suspicious, but
it does sound.
anyway.
There's a couple of touristy things I really want to do. Like I want to see the new garden, the Egyptian garden, because I haven't done that. I want to go to Trees at the Meteor because that's amazing.
Iconic, yes.
Yeah. I want to go to Duck Island Ice Cream because it's Duck Island Ice Cream. Oh, we actually have one up here now on the North Shore, but it's not the same as the one at home.
Yeah. If it's not across from the park, it's not really. Yeah,
exactly. So I just kind of want to do some touristy things before Christmas. Yeah.
And you should.
I will. Yeah. After this, it's a day off.
Yeah, you deserve it.
Yeah.
Thank you,
and then,
Paul.
I will talk to you later. Thank you very much.
Yes.
All right.
See ya.
So that was Kelly from the Tron. Do a search for her if you haven't come across her before. She's done some amazing work around local governance, around local body politics, and local music. She loves her Kitty Kitty Noa music. It's absolutely brilliant. So definitely go give her a follow. Hunt her down on Facebook. It's very, very good. Now, Nigel here raises a really interesting point. 491 votes is less than all the election banners he has on fences. There has been a lot of banners out there. They should all be down by now, in theory. That's kind of how it's supposed to work. Let's do a quick refresh. 37% of the vote. Okay, there goes that distance again. So with 37% of the vote counted, Tama Potaka is still in the lead. He's got 3,600 votes to Georgie's 2,400. And with 37% of the vote, you're looking at some very low voter numbers. It's really disappointing. So there's a difference of about 1,200 votes there now. It's quite weird out there. So for our smaller candidates as well, smaller, I mean, they're regular sized people, but for the other candidates, Sam asks actually a really good question here. I don't know if you guys can see it. Will Donna and Jade hit triple figures? Chances are that they will, but not by much. So just looking at the share numbers at the moment, we're looking at 60 votes for Donna Pulketi-Phillips and 27 votes for Jade. So neither of them are doing great, but they will hit triple figures with 37% of the vote counted together. Let's have a look at this comment from Melissa. Disappointed that ACT is third, considering that he seemed almost asleep in all the debates, but it probably shouldn't be surprising with the swing. And this is a really interesting one because ACT as a party has a really strong tie to Hamilton. I don't know how many people saw the story on One News yesterday, which started off with them asking people about who they would vote for. And the first guy that they actually spoke to was property developer Steve McLennan, who ran with the ACT Party president into council. He was on council with him for a number of years. He's very big fans of the ACT Party. And that's the person that One News chose to have as their first comment about who are you going to vote for in the by-election. And it might just be because they were in the CBD and Steve works in the CBD. I'm not saying it's a conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy. I'm not one of those people, but it is one of those things that's quite interesting to sit down and watch from the outside as well. Because if somebody's like that is on TV and you don't know what their connection is, and they say, this is how I'm going to connect to this audience or this group, it becomes a little problematic. You start to question these things. But ACT has always had a really strong presence in Hamilton for that very reason. And if you jump down River Road during an election cycle, you can tell exactly what houses these people are at because they're just full of everything. So we're now sitting at 42.9% of the vote counted. Tama has increased his lead. He's 1,542 votes ahead of Georgie. It does not look like it's going to be a great night for Labour. It is, it's not great at all for them. But at the same time,
sure I understand.
Shh, Siri. Shh. I'm sorry, my phone decided to jump in. Yeah, it's definitely not a great night for them. I'm just writing something up to go across the ticky banner across the bottom. So give me 2 ticks, which is not the best news, but it's fine. I want that to go tickety tick 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 across. Scroll across. There we go, like that. Yeah, it's problematic. Very problematic. Lots of ACT supporters in your stream, Melissa. Yeah, absolutely. All right, have a good night. Enjoy your Bonnie Langford autographs. Very, very cool. There are lots of ACT supporters everywhere. They're like everywhere. And I know during the last general election, I knew people who were like, oh, I can't stand Judith Collins. I'm going to vote for ACT. And they're still there as ACT voters. It's embarrassing for some of them. Come on, elections. At this point, I'd say it's pretty safe to say that Tama is going to be the Hamilton West MP going forward. National will be very happy. I don't know if they've got enough middle-aged bald guys in Parliament, but since they've got one retiring at the next election anyway for Hamilton, at least they're going to replace him with somebody else with the bald guy from Hamilton. Who knows? And that's the other thing as well, is how this ties into the next election. Because Hamilton West is not a bellwether seat, as we've seen. It just feels like it should be because of a holdover from the 60s and 70s. But what this does mean is that Labour can see that people are starting to get tired. Oh, I do like this one. Doesn't look like Destiny Church showed up for Jade. No, of course not. Not at all. In fact, for me, it's really good to see that these candidates, specifically the ones that were using what's happening to that kid at Starship Hospital as political fodder, they're tanking. So good to see. So good to see. So, yeah, in terms of what this means for the future of our government, not much in the short term. The next step of the process, it doesn't actually get finalized until April next year. So they've only got sort of a few months to really get in there and do anything that they're going to do. But it does show Labour a really clear swing in the opposite direction at the moment to where they're at. I'm not sure how Gaurav is going to be feeling after setting off this whole process. At the moment, he's sitting on 776 votes. It's not bad. It's obviously just not the winning market at the moment. And at the same time, you've also got candidates like Naomi from Top sitting here on 173. And I actually kind of feel sorry for Naomi in this respect, in that she's been out there, she's been campaigning hard, she's a lovely individual. But because you've had four main parties sort of pushing this, it's been really difficult to get her involved into the meetings, like just in terms of justifying time, for me anyway, which is really frustrating. Now, this is an interesting one as well that Melissa points out. For what it's worth, National has actually won less than 50% of the vote so far, so they don't have the support of most of Hamilton West. And this is very much one of the reasons why something like STV or MMP would be a better option for the local electorate stuff. God, I'm starting to need another drink. It's terrible. Let's see if we've got an update on numbers. No, not yet. They must be counting someplace really big. Really, really big. They even have options for sharing on Facebook, Twitter, and Reddit. So the Labour Party will be looking at tonight's results, and I don't know that they'll be freaking out, but they will be sitting there kind of concerned because, as you've heard on the news, they consider this a bellwether seat. They're wrong, but they consider it that. And that means that the planning for the next election has to really kick into gear. So losing tonight, next week they're announcing a bunch of retirements, which it could be a range of candidates. I've heard rumors consistently for the last 12 months that there are some young candidates who only just got in at the last election who've already decided that they don't want to be there again. It's really a tough time to be them, basically. Waits for Daddy to take the screen fixed election. He can scream all he wants. I'm pretty sure I blocked him. Very, very sure I blocked him. Let's have a look. Refresh. I kind of want to keep this going until we're over the 50% mark. Kind of. I also don't want to lose my voice. And I'm very curious to make sure that we know for sure who's going to win. We can say for certain. And if they don't update their website, I can't do that. It's frustrating. Really frustrating. So I am kind of curious, though, for those of you that are watching out there, who had much interaction with the minor party candidates? What did you think of them? How did you feel that they went? They're very good at tooting their own horn. And, for example, let me see if I can find the picture. Excuse me. This one here, if you have a look up here, this was actually a comment that came through from the Freedom and Outdoors Party in between their 50 to 60 odd posts about the baby in Starship. This stuff here was telling people that they should go out and vote because the low turnout, the solid base, means that they are more likely to get somebody on, which is true. And we saw that in the local body elections. Hasn't worked out here for them. But I'm very curious to know what sort of interactions you guys have had with any of the minor party candidates. How have you found them interacting with them online? How have you found them? Have you been interacting with them online? Is there a point to putting yourself out there? Because I really can't stand doing it. I may also need another drink, but not beer. Definitely not. All right, so we're sitting at 45% of the vote counted now. It is still Tama well in the lead by about the same sort of distance that we had before, about 1,500 votes. And ACT and Gaurav as well, so still sitting in the same places. I'm kind of surprised Rudy Deploy is doing better than Donna Puketi-Phillips because he did next to no campaigning from what I could see, but he still managed to get 81 votes. Donna is sitting on 69. Peter Wakeman is sitting on 46 from the Aotearoa Legalized Cannabis Party, who's doing better than the Vision Party. She's sitting on 29 votes at the moment. So they're still not quite hitting double-digit figures between the two of them. Yeah, it's... this is an interesting bit of feedback. Very, very interesting. I don't think you're going to get any candidate who will honestly say they don't think they'll win. Yeah, that's very true. Very, very true. This message in from Kelly, who was here with us before. I like Naomi, think she's a good candidate, but always feel I have to vote strategically or not waste my vote like it's either National or Labour, which sucks. And she's spot on the money there. She really is. Like it's just absolutely terrible that we've got what feels like such a duopoly of our politics. It shouldn't be that way. An MMP was designed to make sure it doesn't happen that way. But it's sort of fallen into that, which is no fun for anybody. All right, 48% of the vote. Again, the margin is still very similar. It's looking to be fairly well paced at this point between Tama Potaka and George Dancy. I would say we're talking 44.96 for Tama, 29.35 for Georgie, 1,500 vote difference in there as well. And we're still seeing those incremental increases for both James McDowell and Gaurav Sharma. It's kind of frozen for everybody else, though. A couple of extra votes for people like Donna, no extra votes for people like Jade. It looks like the religious nutjob parties did not come out and support those particular individuals. And it almost looks like their adherence to being really awful about the behavior, for example, of the Freedom and Outdoors and Freedom Party in recent days around this kid and Starship has really sort of bit them in the ass. While they're getting a lot of nationwide support from their base, the people of Hamilton West have very firmly rejected that and told them to F off. Good on you, Hamilton West. I knew there was a reason I liked you. That and the lake's very cool. I do like the lake there. Still 48% of the vote count. Very, very fascinating. All right, let's take it off. It's juggling between screens. It's great fun. So, unless there is a major change sometime in the next hour or so as the votes come in, I think it's going to be Tama Potaka, who is Hamilton West's new MP. National will pick up an extra seat. Gaurav, I think, will probably go back to medicine. I'm very curious to see what the voters feel about this whole process. But at the moment, with 50% of received votes counted, almost 50%, you're looking at just shy of 10,000. It's such an abysmal turnout. Right? It's really, in fact, we've just hit the 51.4%. And again, pace 1,562 difference. So here's an interesting question. I don't believe they are, because they can still run an individual candidate. It's actually the same thing for Vision. Vision was not registered, I think, or the Umbrella Party wasn't registered, but they could run somebody under it. It's basically you can run an individual who says they're part of the party, but the party doesn't have to be registered unless it's for the party vote in the general election. Pretty sure that's how it works. And then you have to get, I think it's 500 people to sign off saying they want to be members and all the rest of it, which means that there's at least 500 people around the country who think that Brian Tamaki should be the person running the country. That's insane. What is wrong with people? Absolutely crazy. Oh, iPhone unlocked. So yeah, I'm fascinated that this actually at the moment is very much going twink. Huh. All right. It looks like there's been a slight adjustment. We're now back down to 48% of the vote counted, but exactly the same difference, 51%. This is strange, very strange. But yeah, the difference is about 1,560 votes, and it's incremental. It's climbing that way. It's really ridiculous. Let me see. Give me just a second. I want to see if we have anything online yet from any of these candidates about the election results. The crazy ones, because the others will not say anything until they've actually got answers or know what's going on. No, the last thing that Donna Pulketi Phillips posted was, "This is fucking criminal. All these people need to hang their heads in shame. This poor mama and papa trying to protect them." Yeah, you get the picture. But if we go outdoor, Freedom. No, same thing. It's almost like they gave up on the election and just focused on the baby. It's ridiculous. Jade Tate hasn't posted anything in 18 hours. And of course, their political sites are down. They're not allowed to have they're not supposed to have political websites up and running during the election day. It's a really weird sort of law that they're constantly evolving. All right, so at 54% of the vote, again, it's still 1,560 votes difference between Tama and Georgie. It actually feels very much like a bit of a swing. It's very strange. ACT is just shy of their 1,000 vote mark. They're sitting at 966. Top is sitting at 192. Donna Puketi Phillips is sitting at 72 votes at the moment. And Peter Wakeman from the Aotearoa Legalised Cannabis Party is sitting at 49. And then we have Jade Tate from the Vision New Zealand Party is sitting on 29 votes. I'm so glad, personally, I'm really fucking glad to see that somebody who was out there spreading hate, like drag queens are child groomers, being fucking trounced by the voters. I mean, personally, that kind of abhorrent behavior is so fucking frustrating to see, so wrong. And to see voters actually turn around and reject that, I love that. I think that's fucking amazing. And feel free, if you talk to Jade, to point out that her beliefs in this may be the reason that she didn't get more than a couple of dozen votes, because that's where she's tracking at the moment. 30 is probably what we're looking at. I'd say maybe finishing about 40 votes. Kelly actually raises a really good point here. Tama does understand co-governance. So we might have a better conversation about that locally. And Tama actually worked on some of the co-governance structures around the Waikato. He worked really specifically, I think it was on the Waikato River Authority and a little bit of things around Ruakura and the base. So he's certainly got that experience. And it is Waikato experience, which is really good to see as well. Still 1571 votes difference. So yeah, it'll be interesting. When I spoke to Tama, the thing that struck me was very much we're towing the company line. This is Nationals policy and it will stay this policy and nothing will change. So I'll be interested to see whether or not he's got 12 months to make a difference here. I think co-governance is one of those words that shouldn't be scary, but is, like it. Stephen King's It shouldn't be scary. Is no real reason for it to be scary, except you've been told that it's supposed to be scary. Co-governance is one of those things that people shouldn't be afraid of. But they're very scared. Right, we're looking at 60% of the vote counted, 1,588 vote difference here. Still Tama leading Georgie, 4,709 votes to 3121. I think it's pretty clear at this stage that National is going to flip the seat. It is going to be Nationals for the next 12 months at least until the general election comes in. The Labour Party is going to be a little bit concerned about this. And National's sitting there going, we're the underdog. To be honest, they haven't been the underdog the whole time. It's been one of those things where, the National Party has been in power in Hamilton West for 30 of the last 53 years. So they've certainly got the experience there. They were never really the underdog, but people feel it's a swing seat, even though it's not. Went through all this. Watch the live stream afterwards. You get a recap on it and it'll all make perfect sense. But National has definitely taken it out at this stage, unless, there's a polling booth that suddenly got 2,000 votes for somebody else, but we're just not seeing those numbers come through. So far at the moment, 10,649 votes accounted, which is 62% of all the votes received. So it's going to be really abysmally low numbers, maybe 30% of all eligible voters. It's not ideal. Not in the slightest. Let's go back to the comments section. What do we got? Baxter said, worried having that by-election was going to split the left-leaning vote to allow National to win. yeah, it hasn't really happened that way because there hasn't really been much of a left block to split the vote this time around. A lot of them stayed away, which is kind of good. And Justine Rangawai, he raises a really interesting point. Luxon is going to crow about this quite a bit, and the National Party is going to be riding on this high for a while. So if you get frustrated by the National Party, maybe, just maybe, avoid politics for the next few months, because we really don't want to deal with that stress. Avina points out that Donna missed out just a touch, Avina, just by 1 or 2 millions of votes, dozens of votes, any vote. Let's have another look. So we're sitting at 65% here. 65% of the vote. Again, the difference has gone up a little bit at 1696 vote difference between Tama and Georgie. James McDowell has passed his 1,000 vote mark. Guarav is sitting at 900. Now, I don't have the percentages here, unfortunately, to break it down for you. But, I don't know, do some maths. Work out the maths. It's been a long day. It's Saturday. Looking at our minor parties, Naomi Pocock is actually sitting on 235 votes for top. Rudy Deploy is sitting on 93 votes for the We're Not Racist, Sexist, Homophobic Religious Party of totally racist, homophobic, sexist assholes. Donna Pukiri Phillips, who is the NZOF, which apparently is Outdoors and Freedom and not OnlyFans, which I think is probably a better thing for OF in this particular regard, sitting at 83 votes. Peter Wakeman from the Aotearoa Legalised Cannabis Party, sitting on 56 votes. Jade Tate from Vision New Zealand, sitting on 33 votes. And Gordon John Dixon, Independent, sitting on 22. Frank Fu, also Independent, sitting on 12. And Richard Osmiston from the Money Free Party is sitting on 7. I'm starting to lose my voice. So, I'm going to wrap it up. Shh, Sam, shh. No. OnlyFans, bad in this case. Do not even suggest that to this particular party, because that's the kind of thing that they would do. Nobody would watch, and then they'd say it's all to do with the vaccine or the tyrannical government or something like that. So just, no, we're not going to go there. I am, however, going to wrap it up there, I think, because 1, I'm losing my voice. 2, it's Saturday, and this is like my 3rd election this year, and I'm exhausted. Like, it is exhausting. Now, sitting with 70% of the vote done, or 68.6% of the vote done, Tama's extended his lead by about 200. Yeah, I'd like to congratulate Tama Potaka on the win. Commiserations to the other candidates. They've all worked incredibly hard in such a short amount of time. There's a lot to learn here for everybody who's been involved at every level of government. It is one of those things that people will sit back and learn from, but make sure you do that on Monday, not tomorrow. Tomorrow, you should either totally avoid social media altogether, which is what I plan to do, or maybe go and visit a few of these people who have got very, very few votes, who were going out spreading hate, misogyny, and that kind of thing, and maybe just suggest to them that could be a reason why they didn't really engage well with voters, because that's certainly how it is looking from here. Sam, it has been my pleasure. I can't have too many more beers. I've got other things to do tonight, but it has been an interesting one. I want to thank all of the candidates and the people who came and spoke to me tonight. Holly and Kelly, you're absolutely amazing. See? Kelly gets me. She's awesome. So fucking awesome, Kelly. Thank you. I will talk to you guys all later. Don't forget, feel free to leave comments and share, subscribe. I don't know what else you do on these things. Tell people about what's going on. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. Again, congratulations to Tama Potaka. Commiserations to George Dancy. I am sure that the Prime Minister will be not particularly impressed with those results. But we will get there. Until next time, everybody, ka kite anō. Have a great weekend. Go and do something fun with your family tomorrow. It's definitely the day for it. All right, catch you later.